Hello and welcome to this edition of World at War. I'm your host, Mohammed Saleh. The Russian forces fighting in Ukraine are facing a mutiny. The Wagner mercenaries who've been at the forefront of the fighting in Bakhmut have suffered some serious reverses. Yevgeny Prigozhin has blamed his losses on the battlefield on the lack of ammunition for his mercenaries. And Ukraine, which for months had been planning its counter-offensive, is on the move. The United Kingdom is sending long-range Storm Shadow missiles to Ukraine. Without the Western leaders making it obvious, the nature of the war in Ukraine is now slowly turning from being a defensive one to an offensive war. And what no one can at this moment predict is how will the Kremlin respond to the long-range weapons that are now being pumped into Ukraine. This is the scene of devastation at the industrial complex in Luhansk in Russia-controlled Ukraine after it was struck by Ukrainian missiles. The precise location of this missile strike is 100 kilometers behind the front lines. And this has now sparked speculation that Ukraine has already begun to use the British-sent long-range Storm Shadow missiles. On the 11th of May, when the British Defence Minister Ben Wallace made this announcement in the Parliament, it took everyone's breath.
In December, I informed the House that I was developing options to respond to Russia's continued aggression in a calibrated and determined manner. Today, I can confirm that the UK is donating Storm Shadow missiles to Ukraine. Storm Shadow is a long-range, conventional-only precision strike capability. It complements the long-range systems already gifted, including HIMARS and Harpoon missiles, as well as Ukraine's own Neptune cruise missile and longer-range missions elsewhere gifted. The donation of these weapon systems gives Ukraine the best chance to defend themselves against Russia's continued brutality.
Keep in mind, this is a clear departure from the earlier stated position that the Western nations will only supply defensive weapons to Ukraine. So what makes the Storm Shadow missiles a serious escalation in the war? Well, to begin with, the Storm Shadow missiles, co-developed by Matra and British Aerospace, is a turbojet-powered missile that cruises at a speed of 0.8 Mach. It has a range of almost 560 kilometers, and although relatively small, it packs a punch with a 450-kilogram warhead. The missile is shaped in such a manner that it is difficult for radar systems to detect it. The missile navigates semi-autonomously to its target and can strike with pinpoint accuracy. Russia is about to hit back hard at Britain, but what must also bother Russia are reports that Ukraine has managed to strike down its very first Kinzhal hypersonic missile using the American-sent Patriot missile defense system. The Kinzhal, which means a dagger in Russian, can fly at a speed of Mach 10. It is capable of carrying both conventional and nuclear warheads, and it has a range of 2,000 kilometers.
We have received information that it was the so-called Kinzhal that the Russians say no weapon can shoot down. But we can see here at the Military Forensic Institute, where the experts have determined the fragments are those of the same hypersonic missile that the Russians present as a miracle weapon, impossible to shoot down. This makes us happy because we feel safer, and we thank our partners for their support, because safety is the most important thing for all Ukrainians.
On the battlefield, technological superiority is the key. If Ukraine can regularly shoot down the Russian Kinzhal missiles, then this will blunt the Russian bite over Ukrainian skies. And although Kiev is still hesitant to declare that its spring offensive is already underway, the drone attacks over Kremlin and the massive explosion at Sevastopol are the clearest indicators that Ukraine's counteroffensive is already underway. Not for the first time has Pakistan been convulsed by a paroxysm of protests that has brought the country to a complete standstill. Pakistan's history is replete with episodes of political violence, of leaders being assassinated even when they are in office, of leaders facing a political witch hunt once they've been shunted out of office. When Imran Khan eventually secured bail, he dubbed his country had been reduced to a banana republic. But the larger question is this: in this entire fiasco, the Pakistani army, which has been caught on the wrong foot, has been exposed as trying to bring about a political downfall of a popular leader. So how does the Pakistani army now dig itself out of this hole that it itself jumped into. Our next report gets you the details. As the Pakistani Rangers swooped in on Imran Khan and arrested him at the Islamabad High Court premises on the 9th of May, neither Islamabad nor Rawalpindi could have predicted the scale of protest that would break out. There was immediate pandemonium on the streets, even though the government was quick at imposing Section 144, as videos of Imran Khan's arrest and his lawyer bleeding due to a tussle inside the court premises went viral. The Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf workers took to the streets.
Today, the leader of Islamic World was arrested, and information is coming that he was tortured during the arrest. This arrest is not acceptable in any conditions. Imran Khan is our red line. Imran Khan is a brave and honest leader of Islamic World. Today, I call upon entire Pakistani people and the workers of PTI to come out on the streets.
Protesters blocked major roads in cities like Lahore, Karachi, Peshawar and Islamabad. Stones were pelted, trucks were set on fire. The anti-riot force responded with tear gas shells and water cannons. It soon emerged that the National Accountability Bureau in Islamabad had arrested Imran Khan in relation with the Al-Khader Trust case, in which he and his wife Bushra Bibi are alleged to have been involved in a corruption scandal to the tune of $240 million. In Peshawar, the protesters entered into the building of Radio Pakistan station and set it on fire. In Lahore, the protesters, including many women, stormed into the house of the Lahore Corps commander and vandalized it. They stole peacocks, chicken korma and even tubs of curd from the Corps commander's house, and then they set it ablaze. Sensing that the protest in the nuclear-armed nation had gone too far, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf leaders issued an appeal for peaceful protest.
When they saw the most popular leader in the country being dragged by Islamabad police, there was a reaction all over the country. From Karachi to Khyber, people are out in the streets, they are protesting, and they will continue to protest. But I've asked them, protest is their legal constitutional right. Keep it peaceful. Do not get into people's houses. Do not destroy public or private property. But peaceful protest is our right.
But the genie, once released from the bottle, was unlikely to go back in again. Pakistan's military installations came under attack. The protesters saw the arrest of Imran Khan as a game of puppet and puppeteers. On the face of it, it was the anti-corruption unit in Pakistan which had staged Imran Khan's arrest. But Imran Khan supporters vowed that it was the army that was calling the shots from behind the curtain. In 2018, Imran Khan had stormed to power with the backing of the Pakistani army. But soon, the blue-eyed boy lost the support of Rawalpindi. There were disagreements over top military appointments. Imran Khan went on record and said that the Pakistani airspace would not be given to the Americans to carry out drone strikes in Afghanistan. Imran Khan soon started to refer to the army as neutrals in a disparaging way. And before he knew it, in April 2022, Imran Khan was shunted out of power in a conspiracy which Imran Khan alleged was orchestrated by the Pakistani army at the behest of the Americans. On the 3rd of November, there was an assassination attempt in Wazirabad during his long protest march against the government. Imran Khan was shot in the foot. He survived, but since then has constantly alleged that the army is trying to knock him off. For his court appearings, Imran Khan has appeared wearing a bizarre bulletproof bucket on his head. This Thursday, Pakistan's Supreme Court denounced the manner of his arrest as unconstitutional. And on Friday, he was granted bail by the Islamabad High Court. On his release, Imran Khan termed the Pakistani state to become a banana republic.
The only hope now left, the only thin line between a banana republic and democracy is that judiciary. That's the only hope we have now. Otherwise, there is no rule of law here. It is a complete law of the jungle. Might is right. You can be picked up. One man in this country decides whatever, and that happens. There's just one man.
Not for the first time has the Pakistani army meddled in the politics of Pakistan. With the economy in doldrums and another popular leader challenging the writ of Rawalpindi. What is difficult to predict is at what juncture will Rawalpindi move in for another round of military rule in Pakistan. At least 30 Palestinians have been killed and more than 90 others have been injured in airstrikes by the Israeli forces on Gaza since the 9th of May. The victims include women and several children, besides the targeted senior leaders of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement. This latest round of violence began when Israel started what it called as preemptive and unprovoked airstrikes, with the stated objective of smoking out the Islamic Jihad militants. But questions are being asked about the heavy collateral death toll amongst the Palestinians. And why has the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu embarked on this campaign of airstrikes on the Palestinians at a time when his far-right coalition government has been paralyzed by relentless protests against his controversial judicial reforms? Our next report gets you the details.
Tel Aviv launched a campaign against the Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement's senior leadership in the early hours of Tuesday. Israeli fighter jets and unmanned drones carried out simultaneous and surprise attacks in Gaza, killing 3 senior Palestinian Islamic Jihad leaders and at least 10 civilians, most of them women and children. Tel Aviv accuses Islamic Jihad militant group of planning and executing attacks on Israel. The Tuesday attack set off an exchange of fire between Israeli army and Palestinian militant groups. Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the second largest armed group in Gaza after the ruling Islamist Hamas, has reportedly fired over 800 rockets, some deep into Israel. In these retaliatory rocket strikes, one person in the central Israeli city of Rehovot was killed on Thursday, and at least 2 others were reportedly injured. At least 1/3 of these rockets have been intercepted by the Israeli Iron Dome missile defense system. On Thursday, 2 more senior Islamic Jihad leaders, Ali Ghali, commander of a rocket launch unit, and his deputy Ahmed Abu Deka, were killed in these Israeli airstrikes. Israeli army claimed to have fired at 191 targets across Gaza on Thursday itself.
Earlier this morning, we eliminated the commander of the Islamic Jihad missile division in Gaza. Now, an hour ago, we eliminated his deputy as well. As I have already said, anyone who attacks us risks their life, and also anyone who replaces them. We are in the middle of the campaign, both offensive and defensive.
This latest escalation is the worst flare-up in violence since last August, when 49 Palestinians were killed in a 3-day escalation. No Israeli casualty was reported in that flare-up. Fearing the worst, most of the shops in Gaza remain shuttered and the streets deserted. Israeli military aircraft circled the besieged coastal enclave where several buildings lay in ruins. International community has called for an immediate comprehensive ceasefire. Cairo continues to mediate for truce, but an official announcement is yet to emerge. Meanwhile, civilians on either side of the divide, and often caught in the line of fire, endure sleepless nights, fearing for their families' safety.
The occupation here shells the streets, the houses, public places. The shelling and sounds of explosions we hear because of the Israeli strikes has caused a state of terror and fear among children. My children fear going to the bathroom now, fear going to the shop. I would ask my son to go buy something from the shop and he would tell me he is afraid that the Jews will shell again. They have shelled little kids and have no mercy on anyone.
The decades-long conflict escalated late last year after veteran Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu returned to power, heading a coalition with extreme right and ultra-Orthodox parties. Israel has also been convulsed by its biggest domestic political crisis in decades, as mass protests have flared up against plans to reform the justice system. This judicial overhaul is being spearheaded by Netanyahu, who, interestingly, is himself facing corruption charges in court. Could this recent flare-up be a diversionary tactic on Netanyahu's part to deflect attention from the massive protests against his government?
Is the United States of America one of the most unsafe places to live on planet Earth? This may sound a bit alarmist, it may sound sensational, but let me just list out a few statistics. We are in the second week of the 5th month of the year, and there have already been more than 200 mass shootings that have taken place in the United States. 14,700 lives have been lost due to the gun violence. A gun-obsessed nation of 330 million people is awash with more than 400 million guns. The threat of mass shootings is a very real concern in the everyday life of an average American, whether it be schools or shopping malls or supermarkets or even highways. The land of the free is besieged with a palpable sense of insecurity and vulnerability. Our next report explores the latest mass shooting from Texas in the United States.
8 people were shot dead and at least 7 wounded at a Texas shopping mall on the 6th of May. First responders, distressed witnesses, and police described scenes of panic and horror 35 miles north of Dallas. The gunman, identified as 33-year-old Mauricio Garcia, got out of his sedan and opened fire indiscriminately on shoppers outside the Allen Premium Outlets Mall in Allen, Texas. The carnage ended about 4 minutes later when a quick responding off-duty Allen police officer, who was inside the mall in response to an unrelated call, confronted and fatally shot Garcia, saving more lives. Investigators recovered as many as 8 firearms, including the semi-automatic AR-15 style rifle, the murder weapon, all purchased legally.
He had 8 weapons with him. He had 3 on his person, and he had 5 in his vehicle. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms has run traces on all the weapons. All of the weapons were legally obtained by the shooter. None of them were stolen, anything else. And now we're running checks on them to see if they were using any crimes. But at this time, we haven't uncovered anything in that regard.
As the 100,000-strong Allen community grieves and tries to come to terms with this horrific tragedy, the motive of the shooting remains unclear. Garcia was discharged from U.S. Army basic training 15 years ago, had once worked as a private security guard, and is believed to have suffered from an unspecified mental illness. One thing is crystal clear, though. Garcia harbored neo-Nazi sympathies.
The big question that we're dealing with right now is, what's his motive? Why did he do this? Well, the big question is, we don't know. That's what the investigation is trying to find out. We do know that he had neo-Nazi ideation. He had patches, he had tattoos, even his signature, verified that. That's one thing we do know.
Lending further credence to the white supremacist ideology of Garcia is the damning revelation that he was wearing a patch on his chest bearing an RWDS insignia at the time of the shooting. RWDS is an acronym for Right-Wing Death Squad, a symbol associated with violent right-wing extremists. In an oft-repeated appeal, President Joe Biden, cutting a rather helpless figure, renewed his call for an assault weapons ban and other gun safety measures.
And I'm determined, once again, to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines.
But is America, especially the Republicans, staunch opponents of stricter gun laws, listening?
The Caribbean nation of Haiti is one of the poorest nations in the Americas. It has been in the grip of a political and an economic crisis ever since the July 2021 assassination of the then President Jovenel Moïse. Criminal groups now control nearly about 80% of the Port-au-Prince metropolitan area, where some more than 200 gangs operate with impunity. More than 600 people have been killed in just the month of April alone in violence in Port-au-Prince. And for several months now, the United Nations has asked the Security Council to send a specialized force to help the Haitian police to restore law and order.
Haiti is in danger and urgently in need of assistance. The security situation in Haiti today is comparable to countries at war. A nation of more than 11 million people has been taken hostage by an estimated 7 major gang coalitions. Some 200 affiliated criminal groups operate with impunity, Routine gunfights take place between the police and gang members, and bloody turf battles have left hundreds dead and thousands displaced.
In the month of April alone, more than 600 people were killed in a new wave of extreme violence that hit several districts across the capital, according to information gathered by the Human Rights Service of the UN Integrated Office in Haiti. This follows the killing of at least 846 people in the first 3 months of 2023. That brings the total so far to 1,446 people killed. And this is in addition to 393 injured over the past 3 months, 395 kidnapped.
In the conflict-ridden country, half the population finds itself below the poverty line. 4.9 million people are facing acute food insecurity. Haiti's crime rate has doubled in the last year. Terrorist attacks, destruction, kidnappings, theft, assassinations and rape are the modus operandi of the gangs. Needless to add, these brutal tactics enacted by gangs are deeply troubling.
Gang violence is expanding at an alarming rate in areas previously considered relatively safe in Port-au-Prince and outside the capital. The horrific violence in gang-ridden areas, including sexual violence, particularly against women and girls, is emblematic of the terror afflicting much of Haiti's population.
With gang violence expanding at an alarming rate, locals began to take things into their own hands. Lack of police presence in such gang-afflicted areas did not help matters. 13 suspected gang members were beaten to death and set on fire by a mob in Haiti on 24th of April. It was the most horrific vigilante violence witnessed in the recent history of the country. Later the same day, 6 more gang members were allegedly killed by the police and burnt by residents. Sensing the urgency and desperation, police pledged to crack down on unrelenting gang violence, which has paralyzed swathes of Haiti's capital. Additionally, they have urged Haitians to end the grisly vigilante killings and instead contact police in case of suspecting anything unusual in their neighborhoods. Haitian police are exhibiting a newfound resolve to fight the menace of gangs. What remains to be seen is that will the international community help the Haitian police in its fight against these criminal groups?
Thanks for watching World at War. And if you want to reach out to me with any comments, feedback or suggestions, please feel free to do so on the Twitter handle that you see on your screens. I'm your host Mohammed Saleh, and I'll see you again next week.